Alhamdulillah. And once again, thank you all. Let me greet you officially with the greetings of peace that obligate each and every one of us to keep that peace, and that is Salamun Alaikum. You can open up your phone and give the return greeting and then mute it once again if you choose to do so.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you. Great to see all of you. The ones who I can see, the ones who I can't see, I know that the spirit is there and I'm feeling your spirit, so feel fine with that. So we're going to begin, as always, with the Basmala, which is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And we're going to be saying some significant things in the way of further understanding what that Basmala actually represents. So when we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, that is called the Basmala. Okay, just in case anybody's confused about the term, that's called the Basmala. Some people simply say the Bismillah. You know, we have different ways of expressing that phrase. But again, we're going to get into an area of connections that I'm pretty sure none of you have heard before, because these things are downloaded into my brain by the same Araba who you have access to, who has probably done the same for you on occasion if you're human, and who will continue to do that for you if you learn the proper way for opening up the human channels and allowing Allah, God, the Creator, to communicate with you, which He says He does in the Quran very, very clearly. Forgive the scratchiness of my voice. I've been working diligently on this audiobook project for Michaela Sahir. We're doing The Man Behind the Men, which is a very brilliantly written book by Mikhail. And inshallah, in the next couple of weeks, he's going to have access to the completed work. But it's a lot of work. It's over 300 pages. It's a lot of reading and a lot of corrections along the way. And I'm doing the reading and the editing. So it's a big task and it takes up a lot of my time. But not so much time that I can't spend time doing what I love to do, and that is having sessions with you and sharing this great information that Allah has been exposing me to. So I'm going to pull away from some of your smiling faces, and we're going to pull up the notes. I think I mentioned in the email that today is the official day of Clara Muhammad, Mrs. Clara Muhammad's birthday. April 2nd, 1899, I believe. So I asked you in your dua to make a special dua for her in memory of, and thank Allah for whatever she was able to bring to the table with her wisdom, her guidance, her support of the work of her husband, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the support and the assistance that she gave to the entire Nation of Islam family of her day and time. That was her contribution, and we ask that Allah forgive her any sins and grant her Firdaus, the highest level of paradise. So let me go fetch my notes, and here we go. Let me just get a confirmation, Adib, pardon me, Instructor Adib, that you can see my notes on the screen.
Yes, sir, I can see the notes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to begin. This may end up being a little bit fast and furious, but those of you who have been with me for a while, you're used to this. I'm going to ask that if you do have any questions, and I'm sure you will, because maybe 85% of what you're about to see and hear is going to be new to you. So I'm going to ask that you not stop me, or else we'll be here all night long, and that's not my plan, not for tonight. If you have a question, simply make a note of it. Inshallah, if we're able to get to that question when we wind down from delivering the information, feel free to ask. And if not, as usual, if you do have a question, you can reduce it to an email. and I will surely answer you one-on-one. So thank you for being here on this second day of April 2021. This is, I didn't make the correction here, but this is the University Online Learning Course. Look how far back I drew this page, this cover page from. This is semester 14. So let's make that a correction. There we go. I am your international instructor, Benjamin Bilal, welcoming you once again and thanking you once again for being on time. And we're going to be talking today about the Basmala's red shift, blue shift. This actually shouldn't have two L's here. We'll work with that. But the Basmala, I might be right. You know, maybe the people I have been looking at from other places on the planet, maybe they're wrong, because I think the second lamb should be there. It's in the word Allah. It should be in the word Basmala. All right. So most of you have seen this picture of the human figure, and I'm going to explain very quickly what these different configurations are. I have here first what's called the plane of inertia. The plane of inertia. Now I'm going to show you certain things that I want you to keep in mind. Inertia means lack of or lacking energy. It's the point where things are completely at rest. Completely at rest, R-E-S-T. What you're seeing here, and I'm going to begin from the beginning of it. I want you to just follow my arrow from this horn-shaped top here. Looks like a bugle horn. And you're going to see two sides of it go down, 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 down until it forms a secondary horn-shaped mouth at the bottom. So try not to look at anything else except that configuration. The horn-shaped top going down into a type of funnel shape and then spreading back out into a horn-shaped mouth at the bottom. Right here in the middle of this man's chest is where the dielectric inertia plane, we've spoken about that several times. The dielectric inertia plane exists. It's also known as the plane of inertia because it's a plane. It's a straight line. It begins as a straight line. If you can imagine human beings as babies coming out of the wombs of their mothers and being laid on their backs, none of those babies are going to jump up and stand up and start walking and running. So that initial positioning of the child in a horizontal manner turns this whole picture on its side. So that's what you need to do mentally. Just turn the whole picture on its side so that these two horn shapes are right and left. They become right and left. And this plane that is now vertical also becomes horizontal as a line. That line or that plane is called the plane of inertia. That is how not only the human being, but that is how every life form comes into being. In fact, creation itself comes into existence based on some form of this inertia plane. You've even seen this with your television. You remember back in the days when we only had 13 channels and you would turn it off and a line would appear, right? Or when you would turn it on, a straight line would appear. Then it would open you up to the black and white experience or the color television experience or whatever. But it begins as a line. It begins linearly. And that's how life forms begin. Now, once we stand up and gain our equilibrium, that line that was once horizontal becomes vertical, like a tree. So you can also see this shape as somewhat of a tree. If you see the bottom part of the horn's mouth as roots going into the ground, and if you see the top part of the horn's mouth as leaves and branches coming up out from the top of the tree. So when you read about these things in the scriptures, such as in the Bible, when it talks about the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or even when you read in the Quran where Allah says that a goodly word is as a goodly tree, and he speaks about that goodly tree, how its growth is firmly established, its roots in the ground and so forth, and it gives its fruit. In every season, this thing stays green. You think it's talking about a tree in your backyard? You're wrong. It's talking about this motif that we're discussing right now. It's talking about the system of cosmically charged energies that Allah has placed into each and every one of us as human beings. And this tree is a tree that experiences greenness or growth or production without measure and without count and without stopping. But Allah also speaks about a tree called the Khabitha, and that means the foul tree. That's good for nothing except to be uprooted and thrown out. He's talking about the difference in the cosmic energies and how they are registering in some human beings versus other human beings who are not paying attention to the growth of their garden. This is the Garden of Eden, sitting right smack dab in the center of your solar plexus energies and your heart chakra energies. Your heart chakra energies are green because they represent the garden or the guarded deen or the guarded den. We'll get into that in a moment. This area is, you know what happens if you don't guard your solar plexus and you don't guard your heart against enemies that are coming against you in wartime? They're going straight, they see you with the armor on your head, but they're going to try to pierce that shell that you're using as protection. And Allah tells us that from the Jinnati and from An-Nas, they're going to be whisperers that are trying to get into this section of your torso, into what's called the Sudur. Allah says that they will be whispering into Sudur An-Nas, into the Sudur of An-Nas. And if you look at that Quranic Arabic word, Sudur, you're going to hear three major consonants. They are the S sound, the D sound, and the R sound. In the word torso, you have the T sound, the R sound, and the S sound as consonants. Listen to them again. Sudur, S, D, R. Torso, T, R, S. All of you by now know that you can interchange the D and the T as dentals. So the word torso and the word sudur are saying practically the same thing. Practically, it's the same word. The torso is the chest area, and in Arabic, the sudur is the chest area. And what they have in common is that they serve as the protection for the most vital organs that Allah has placed within your human body. You can lose a kneecap in war, but if you lose that heart, or if you lose those lungs, or if you lose both those kidneys, you get the message. This is the most protected part, the most guarded part of the human body system, called the Soma System, S-O-M-A. I'm going to be dropping a lot of things along the way. You're going to want to keep your pens and papers active while I'm teaching tonight. You should be scribbling down as furiously as you can words that you're not familiar with, or words that are evoking certain ideas that are coming to you, because I'm sure you're going to be getting some form of revelation, small r. Don't let them come after me, small r. You're going to be getting some form of revelation before tonight is done. So the plane of inertia is this straight line, happens to be up and down now because he's standing, but that straight line, that's where all life begins. When a woman becomes pregnant, in the middle of what will grow to be an infant body, first emanates a white light, almost a translucent light, meaning see-through. That's the first emanation. That see-through stream or strip of life is what we're referring to right now. And it will go on to produce the exoskeletal structure of that baby to be born. Exoskeleton. Don't just look it up as skeleton. Look up what an EXO skeleton is. And that exoskeleton, according to the medical people, it doesn't look solid. It looks almost kind of spooky. Like it's almost like a spiritual, see-through, ghostly kind of look to the exoskeleton before it goes on in the next few weeks after that to become a solidly recognized skeletal body. Deep science we're discussing tonight, and I haven't even gotten started yet. Just make sure that, okay, great. All right. Now, what emanates out from this dielectric inertia plane strip, the first thing to develop within that strip, once the exoskeleton begins to manifest, Allah places the first major organ into the human baby's body, developing baby or embryo's body. And that's the heart in the center. That's the first organ before the brain manifests. The heart before the lungs, before the spleen, before all of the heart manifests and can be seen through ultrasound as beating, pulsating, pumping. So from this dead strip comes a pulse. Think about what I'm saying. From this inert strip, which begins to develop an ethereal type of exoskeletal structure, God places a human heart with a beat that can be monitored electronically. So from what was once dead, apparently, or seemingly, has taken on life. So if you have to go to the hospital and they need to monitor your heartbeat, you're going to see it on the screen of the machine as waves. You've seen it. I've had it displayed in many of our classes. You'll see it. And if the life force ceases to be, they call that flatlining. You see that? Because you are returning to your original dielectric inertia plane of existence. That's how your life started. It started at rest. And at the end of your life, that life force will become arrested by God. And some of us will be kicking and screaming, and some of us might be shouting hallelujah. I hope I passed the test. But nevertheless, you enter into a state of rest, which I told you also is a code word or a related word at least to the word reset, because your life is about to be reset. So if you take out that extra E from RESET and make it R-E-S-T, it's the same word saying exactly the same thing. You're being brought to rest. And that all happens here in the middle chamber. The dielectric inertia plane, I'm going to be asking you to repeat some of this. The dielectric inertia plane existence, which is at rest, is then given a heart center, which God, the Creator, activates. Now, how is that heart activated? Where did that come from? That comes from, we believe as Muslims, and science tends to concur using different language, different words. As Muslims, we believe that that represents the breathing into the human creature of God's ruh. It's called the ruh in Arabic. In Hebrew, it's called the ruach, the ruach. And this world of social schemers and language manipulation, they take from those words, particularly the Hebrew version of ruach, and they get the word roach. So what they're saying is that human beings are all born with roaches as their centerpiece. You know that roach? That's what they're saying created you, because you bug them. they think we're bugged. Yeah, they say they believe we bug them. What do we want now? What are the man? Oh, let them eat cake. You've heard that, right? Queen, whatever her name was, right? Let them eat cake. We're bugging them. We're bugging the elite, quote unquote. Because in their eyes, I repeat, we're seen as a bunch of roaches. But let me tell you what their wiser minds and scholars understand about that connection to the roach. They see the roach as a creature or an insect that has such magnificent longevity. See? They say you can't kill these things. Right? They said that these roaches existed 5 and 6 and 7,000 years ago in the kingdoms of the ancient pharaohs of Egypt. There were roaches. Some of these other creatures weren't around, and some of the creatures that were around then are not here now. But the roach is here to stay. I know that's a fact. Right? So what they're secretly saying is that this ruh or this ruach that God has deposited into the human being, that is part and parcel of the human being's elevated soul. That's what ruh is translated as. Spirit as well as soul. And we'll talk about the difference between those two words momentarily. But what they're saying is that no matter what we do to the human being, we can't kill that soul. That's what we're after. We want a dormant, at rest, and arrested soul operating in the, not even operating, just laying dormant, waiting for our command, waiting for us to jumpstart it if we choose to do so. I'm speaking as the manipulators. So that's also what they're saying in connecting the roach to the ruh. So that pulsation creates a dual activity in you and me. That dual activity, that two-ness that is now emanating out of that oneness that was the initial inertia plane, that two-ness is called a vortex. A vortex, plural, vortices. You should be saying these things to yourself if you haven't heard these words or haven't had an opportunity to pronounce them. The vortex is single or singular. Vortices is the plural of vortex. If you've ever been in, say, parts of Arizona, Sedona, and places like that, the air there, the atmosphere is full of vortexes that will literally make your hair stand up on your head. It happened to my wife, Karima. We were in the hotel room and she used to wear locks as braids. And she came out the bathroom and both her locks were standing up in the air. And that's the first time I had heard about vortexes. She said, yeah, this must be that vortex I've been reading about. What it is this energy that is circulating. You can't see the source of it, but it's circulating. And these vortices are everywhere. Everywhere. So let's get into the explanation of why that is. As you can see, there are several distinct patterns of energies in this particular depiction. We spoke about the plane of inertia, that is deactivated or inactivated energy, doing nothing, just at rest. Once the pulse is created, then the energies begin to circulate in a right fashion, left fashion, like a number 8, if you can see it standing straight up instead of horizontally as it's being shown to you now. It operates exactly like that. It's energy going in and energy circulating and coming out from the bottom, going in through the top, coming out through the bottom, going back in through the top, coming back out through the bottom. This is so wonderful that all of us, at least to ourselves, should say Alhamdulillah for the creation of the human being, for all life, but particularly the creation of human life. This is the fi asani taqween that the Quran is speaking to when he says that.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, when he says that I don't mind you open up your phone to give me one of those. All right. This is that fi asani taqween, that excellence that Allah is speaking of, that he created the human being in. When we cuss and fuss and act foolish, we are depriving ourselves of that excellence and returning this human life back to its dielectric inertia plane resting position.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes. Good to hear your voice, Instructor Michael, and all of you. But I miss Michael. I miss our conversations. We're going to pick up in this next week or so, especially going into the month of Ramadan. So next I have here the aura, or the auric field. Aura is A-U-R-A, as you know. Auric field is this close field, this number 8 circulating energy that is the direct byproduct of the plane of inertia. See that? This plane of inertia, once it starts pulsating, it is what is creating, by the grace of Allah, these circulating and circular motions of activity that are called your aura. Your aura is very close to you. It can actually be read. There are some machines, electromagnetic machines, that can actually read not only your aura and its movements, but also the colors that are associated with the auric dimension. But we can't see that, Instructor. How we know to believe that? Because Allah said, believe bil ghaib. Who knows what bil ghaib means?
The unseen.
Yes. Believe. When we say bil ghaib, it means with the assistance of. Just like we say bi ism Allah, bismillah, it means with the assistance of Allah. All right. So bil ghaib, B-L ghaib means with the assistance of whatever ghaib means. And of course, all of you by now studying the Nunetics book know what the letter ghain means. Can anyone tell me quickly?
Instruction.
Yes?
Restricted vision.
Yes. Thank you, Ahmed, Instructor Ahmed. And I know Fida had it also. And good to see you, Fida. I need to talk to you also more. El Ghaib means, yes, Ghain, that letter means restricted vision. Remember now, there's Ain, which means vision, insight or sight, eyes. And then there is Ghain, See? It's Ayn being obstructed. So Ayn is me looking at you. Rain is somebody coming behind me and putting their hands over my eyes so that I can only see glimpses of what's in front of me. They don't cover it totally. That's not rain. Rain is not blindness. That's another word. Rain is obstruction in the vision. I hope that's clear. I think it is. All right. So to believe bil ghaib means that you do have some insight. You just don't have all of it, or maybe not enough of it to be able to explain it adequately to a person who's inquiring. You know there's something there, even if you call it a ghost. Whoa, what was that noise? Whoa, what was that shadow? There's something there that you saw, but you just didn't see enough to verify it. So you got to believe bil ghaib is what Allah is saying. There are things that he created that he gave you enough substantial and circumstantial evidence to be able to say, I believe in that because I've seen enough of that phenomenon to know that that exists. All right. And you might say, well, yeah, instructor, that's how we have to believe in God, isn't it? Bil ghaib? Nope. No, you don't. You can know that Allah exists just like you know that this hand is up in front of your face and that it exists. In fact, Allah exists more concretely, if I can use that term, than this hand in front of your face or in front of my face. This is the illusion, but it would take time to explain that. Allah is more real, and you can see him in the insect. You can see him in the amoeba. You can see him in the germ. You can see Allah in the coronavirus. Nothing affects Allah. You can see Allah. I remember Imam Muhammad saying years ago, Allah is in the fire, but he's not affected by the fire. He's in everything. He created everything. Therefore, everything carries his signature. It's beautiful when you understand this. And like I said, along the way, if you understand what I'm saying, you can talk back a little bit and then close your phone. That energizes me. All right. So we have the plane of inertia, which I described as this straight line here, which eventually produces a heartbeat or a pulse. And from that pulse, a set of twin energies develop that we're calling the vortex, or that science calls the vortex. One side of this vortex produces a red color. That's the right side, while the other side of the vortex energies produce a blue color. So the human life, once the heart begins pumping, is actually a manifestation of whatever red and blue signify. You have red veins, red blood, and you have blue veins. And you got all of these things operating in your human chamber. The only issue for human beings is what Allah tells us the issue is, and that is we don't pay enough attention to what he's creating as instructing signs for us to live and thrive by. None of us should have doubts about God and about human goodness. The reason we have doubts is because we don't study ourselves and the tremendous amount of value and charities that Allah has poured into the human framework. That's why we have doubts. That's why we give this body bad food, bad air, drugs, alcohol, etc. Because we don't know this body well enough. This body has stopped being our buddy. In the Amazon, those people who are wearing the skirts that we laugh at as being primitive and those people are closer to Allah than we are, because they still understand the level of respect that they should have for what they eat, what they hunt, when they hunt, how they live, how they marry, how they have children, take care of those children, family life. Nobody's homeless. So they're primal in terms of their behaviors, their language, and etc. But Allah is not going to judge you by how well you spoke English or Arabic for that matter. Hope I didn't step on any big toes with that one. How much Arabic you know will mean nothing, nothing in the judgment. I know you've read the hadiths that you're going to have to repeat these lines to get into heaven. You got to say this and say it in Arabic and say it correctly. Well, you know, W.D. Farad pulled the same shenanigan. You got to be 150 pounds to get on the mothership, and you got to be able to read these pamphlets. They're only going to be in English, Spanish, and Arabic. You mean with all of these hundreds of languages on it? What about the Watusi, the Mau Mau, and, you know, the Appalachians who are struggling through English and maybe can't even read? They can't get into paradise because they can't read a pamphlet dropped from a mother plane? Or on the Muslim side of things, Muslim proper thing, they can't read Arabic, or they can't speak Arabic well enough to get into Jannah, where you say the only language is going to be Arabic? Really? Well, all of those people who existed before the formal formation of language, the codifying of language, I'm talking about the people who were still scratching and hunting and gestural community. Exclude all of those people from Jannah. And more room for you, right? Muslim. If you know that millions of people who were living on this earth plane before the development of any intelligible language, that's billions, maybe trillions of people. None of them have a chance for paradise. You say more room for me. That's how dumb some Muslims have become. One day you're going to wake up and realize that the language is a human construct that Allah gave you the template for. But Allah didn't come here directly and teach you Arabic or English. You had to study His fitrah to get those sounds. That's what Nunetics is all about. You had to study the fitrah to get the picture language. The ancient Egyptian captured picture language and they put it on the walls of their tombs and their pyramids, and picture language. But it doesn't mean that they couldn't communicate with each other prior to that. So let's get this thing straight. So again, recounting for those of you who just joined us, and thank you for taking time away from your busy schedule on this off day, Friday, busy day, to be with us. I see fit to just take my time tonight. I don't want to rush, and whatever we don't finish, we will conclude on this Sunday, inshallah. That's my plan anyway. So plane of inertia, you see it here in that strip in the middle of the torso. The vortex or vortices, you see them as energies surrounding and coming in the top and going out the bottom of the torso. These are your torso energies, but they're called your aura because they begin right in the center of that embryonic life when the baby is first introduced to gestation within the mother. That's when those energies begin to circulate, and it's called the aura. What is that the equivalent of in Al-Islam? It's the equivalent of when Allah says that He has breathed His ruh into what's being called the Khalifa. The angels had very little faith in this newborn or in this creature to be as Allah was creating him. And they asked the question along with Iblis, the headhunter, jinn, are you going to create one who's going to make mischief and shed the blood? And Allah's answer could have been, yeah, I'm going to create a human infant. I'm going to create a human infant on this earth, plant his feet, her feet solidly in the earth, and they're going to be a lot for you to handle and manage. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a real human on this earth, a true human. When he's hurt, he's going to cry. He might take vengeance if he gets strong enough in his development. He's going to be very mischievous. You're going to have to watch, and oh, when he starts to crawl and walk, oh, what are you doing with that hammer in your hand, Johnny? Johnny ain't going to build no house. Johnny might smack his father's big toe with that hammer. The children, babies, infants, mischievous. Well, babies don't shed blood. You ain't never seen one born. Can I get a quick alhamdulillah on that one? For the people who have seen a baby born.
Alhamdulillah. All
Are you, are you the only one?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay.
I was there.
Yeah, okay.
Allahu Akbar.
You were
Allahu
there
Akbar.
when it happened to you, and if your wife or girlfriend or whoever it was, sister, and you happen to be blessed to be in the room to watch that birth, that's plenty of blood. Plenty of blood. Allah didn't say what kind of blood. He didn't say from harb or from warfare. He just said, they just said shed the dam. Sure, that's what the baby does. Further than that, the word dhamma, which we're translating as blood, means, as you know from your Nunetics book, any life-giving or life-saving liquid. So that includes milk. That includes water. When the baby is born, a tremendous amount of amniotic fluid is dispensed with. That's water. When the baby starts suckling, a tremendous amount of liquid milk becomes accessible to the baby, and the mother has to shed that milk through her breasts, if you can see that picture. So we have to learn to read the Quran cosmically and scientifically, not to mention metaphysically. So continue to pay attention. This is good. I can feel all of you paying attention, the right kind of attention, the right level of attention. So plane of inertia, straight line. Vortices, right and left, red and blue, right and left, red and blue. You want to remember that more easily? The R and the T in right equals the R and the D in red. The L and the F in left equals the B and the L in blue. B interchanges with F, so BL is also LF. I know you caught that. If you didn't already know it or see it, it's one of those goodies I like to throw out there every now and then. There'll be nothing that they can do with this linguistic science called Nunetics. Once it rears its beautiful head and they begin to see that afro on top of Nunetics, and they're going to say, this is different. This doesn't look like a Phoenician presenting this. Yeah, this ain't phonics. This looks more like maybe ebonics. Who are these people? And it's going to be presented by the most beautiful people that planet Earth has produced up until this day. And that's you and the people that you convinced to come join you. So that's your aura. Again, or maybe I didn't say this yet, but the word aura is consonantally connected to the word ruh. You see the R in the word aura, A-U-R-A. And you see, pardon me, the R in the word ruh. Just invert the consonants. So you're going to go from A-R in aura, remembering that the A is also a guttural from the back of the throat. Aura. So you're going to go from guttural to the liquid R, guttural A sound to the liquid R in aura. And you're going to go from the liquid R to the guttural H sound, heavy H, in ruah. It's just being inverted. Aura, aura, ruah. One is coming out, aura, presenting itself. The other one is entering. When I have breathed of my ruah into him, then fall down into sajda. So says God in the Quran. Then lastly, we have what's called the torus field. That's these wider circling energies that are the byproduct of proper aura development. So if your ruh has been activated correctly, then your torus field energies have nothing to worry about, and this becomes your best defense against all harm. Allah gave you this security. If you stick your hands out right now, if this man would have put his arm up, you see where his arm ends, and you see how much more extensive the torus field energies are, and they actually go further out than this. In fact, your torus field energies have no real limit. They get weaker and weaker as they leave the soma, or the body, the physical body. But there are people who have trained their torus field energies to do some fantastic things. There are people who can sit right where you're sitting and think about their grandmother and send her energies that she will feel and admit to. You can do it with a dua if you understood the proper transmission of a dua in terms of its energy. There's a fitrah to how these things operate. It's not just mumbling, oh Allah, I need some money, oh Allah. No, there's a particular set of words that need to be used, and they need to be phrased in a particular manner. And the sincerity of the heart is most paramount in having your plea or your dua reach, so to speak, the ears of God, and have God then respond. Allah says, I respond to the call of every da'i, every caller, when he calls. So if we're not getting answers from God, and I'm speaking to Christians as well as Muslims and others, it's because we're not calling, or it's because we're dialing the wrong number. I'm not even going to touch that. But some of us need to stop dialing the wrong number and expecting the creator of the heavens and the earth and everything in existence to show up when you've been calling the dude who can't do you no, he can't do you no good or harm. Stop calling him. Stop calling the gap. Stop calling on your money. Stop calling on your women and your men and your house and your car and all. That's not what you're supposed to be calling on. Call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the skies and the earth and everything in between. And you can do it through the manipulation of these torus field energies. This is not spookism. This is science in the realm of what is called metaphysics. It doesn't mean it's not physics, or that it's not something that can be materially manipulated or justified or proved. What it means is that modern day academia has saw fit, for whatever reasons, to not teach the average person in the world, particularly in the Western world of education, to not teach them about these energies that are part and parcel of their human existence. They taught you other things that are invisible and turned out to be lies. They told you niggas were inferior, black skin was inferior, African stock wasn't as good as European stock. They told you a whole lot of ghaib that was false ghaib, but it was invisible. You couldn't measure it. You couldn't, fifths of a man. What can I put that on a scale? I mean, how did you come to that? So it's not like they're not teaching you about the ghaib, but they're falsifying the ghaib so that they can put your real eyes out. So understand this precious set of properties and commodities that God has gifted us with. Let's move on. So as I said earlier, I was quoting from this particular ayah, which is in Surah 15, ayah 29, where God says, فَإِذَا سَوَيْتُهُ وَنَفَّخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. Translated into English, when I have fashioned him, sawaitu, in due proportion. See, the uswa is in this word. Sawaitu, uswa, siwa. See, when I have fashioned him and proportioned him, meaning balanced him out. That's the first step. The first step is not the breathing into him. The first step is the fashioning into proper proportion and balance. So what is that saying? You can have all of the so-called spirit of God in you that you think you can breathe in. But if you don't first have balance, it ain't gonna do you no good. You'll be wasting your time. You'll be spirited. You'll be taken off to the nut house. Under that auspices, he was a spirited fellow, wasn't he? But he was a kook. He was a religious zealot. And that's what those people over there in some parts of the so-called Middle East, thinking that they're working for God as ISIS or USIS or THEYSIS or whoever sis, committing all of these crimes against humanity. And I'm picking on them for now, but I have many more people to pick on right here in America when it comes to crimes against humanity. But they think all that they have to do is shout the name God or Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And they're the least balanced human beings trying to walk the planet. I say trying to walk the planet Earth because they're so imbalanced that they can hardly get that right. So no, it's the 1-2 punch here. You have to accept to be fashioned in due proportion, balanced. And then that creates the conditions that will allow for the proper registration of Allah's ruh in you. So as soon as you say, God told me, I'm going to look for the balance first. And if I don't see it, I'm going to just dismiss you. If I don't see it in myself, I'm going to dismiss me. Jay, Ben, you're talking about you received the ruh and the wahi and all that, but look at your life. It's imbalanced. You're running into brick walls with simple common sense stuff that you should be doing or knowing or saying or trying to institute, and it's not happening. So I have to have the self-accusing finger pointed at me first, is the point. So what you're seeing here on the left side of the screen are those torus field emanations of energy, that circular number 8 on its side that we were talking about. But this operates within the torso of every human being. This would be your spine going up and down, where your spine is developed out of the exoskeletal development. The heart is then developed in the center, and then the auric field energies, and then outside of that, the torus field energies. Red shift on the right, red right, and blue shift on the left. Balu, left. So that's red shift, blue shift. And in science, it's also related to what they call the Doppler effect when dealing with the light spectrum. The light spectrum goes from its densest and deepest of infrared all of the way up to its lightest and fastest charge called ultraviolet. These are also the colors, the standard colors in the rainbow that you see after a good rain. And these are also the colors that are associated with each of your 7 basic chakras, which run from bottom to top, bottom to top. Where the top of this torus field is, this would be your neck, and above it would be your head. And at the neck, the color is going to be blue, the color right here, blue. Above that is going to be the purple and the the purple and the ultraviolet. Beneath that is going to be the heart chakra, the green of the garden that we're calling the heart chakra, where the love and the compassion and all of that we're talking about, where that is. And that's what I want you to think about when we go on later to discuss Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, that very special and considerate mercy that God shows to all beings at all times. So you'll see the connection in a moment. This young man here, I don't know if it's man, woman, it might be a female. Beautiful child, no matter whether it's male or female, can't tell with the hat. But the point is to emphasize the nostrils. You see how it's the Fitra printout of the torus field energy circulating? And there are exercises that you can do where you breathe in through one nostril while holding the other closed, and breathe out through that second nostril while holding the other one closed. Breathe in, breathe out. Actually, breathe in and out with the same nostril, and then do the same on the other side. They're connected to 2 different parts of the brain. One is connected to the pituitary gland. The other one is connected to your pineal gland. And you can energize those glands at will if you know what you're doing. Don't knock yourself out if you don't know what you're doing. But you can actually energize those glands so that your brain begins to work on your behalf instead of on the behalf of the social manipulators. Because right now they have most of us breathing in their false ruh, and they're killing us. We have to take the reins back into our own hands, and we can do that through an accurate understanding of the cosmic Quran, not the historical Quran, the cosmic Quran, the part of the reading that is associated directly with cosmic phenomena and how the Fitra, or the natural world of Mother Nature, operates. So red and blue, give me just one moment. Just going to close up my camera for a moment. Red and blue are the 2 opposing vortex colors contained within the atom, ATOM. It's going to start to get a little deep now. Red and blue, I repeat, are the 2 opposing vortex colors contained within the atom. Now we know the atom doesn't necessarily look like this. This is their rendering, but just follow the principle that we're establishing. Science describes these vortices as polarities. So once the red and the blue shift come into play, the energies have become polarized. Polar, meaning now they have 2 sides to them. Red, blue. Red shift, blue shift. Our physical body, which contains atoms, is called an anatomy. You see the word atom hiding in the word anatomy? This prefix "an" actually means light. A lot of people are not aware of that. So what the anatomy is a book of light that Allah gave you. It's your personal kitab. Your body is your personal book of enlightenment. Ana means light, atom. You see the word tome in atom. Tome means book. So you're carrying around Al-Kitab, one version of it. It's not the only one, and it's not the most significant one, but it is one. Anatomy. Science is wonderful. They've done their best. So the word atom is actually atom. And the use of the a privative that we've been discussing for months now, the use of the a privative deprives the word following the a of its meaning. That's what a privative means. Whatever comes after the a in that word, it deprives what comes after of its meaning. So if we use the a privative in language, in words like asexual or amoral or apolitical or even Adam, that was given to us as Adam. That a at the beginning is depriving whatever word comes after it of its meaning. So asexual, obviously, not sexual. Amoral, not moral. Apolitical, I don't vote. Adam. Adam. Now, if you don't know what damn means, you may have an issue. Let's get into it. Now, in fact, in the English-speaking world of language, you know what a dam does. It's a border, it's a cutoff. It separates water from rushing into another section of a larger body of water. So it divides the water. So a dam means that which does not divide the water. Now, once you understand what that water means, and remember now, Dhamma means blood in Arabic. Dhamma, the same word. Dhamma means blood, but it also refers to any life-giving substance, such as milk or blood. Water, milk, or blood. A lot of science in what I'm giving you right now. So in this case, the word atom is to be rendered as not tom. See, atom, not tom. We're talking about atom, not Adam right now, but atom. And tom means divided. The name Thomas means twin or twain, two. The atom was once seen as a matter which could not be further divided. They didn't reach that level of science to know that there was something smaller that the atom could be divided into. So they looked at it and they said, not divided, that's it. Science, however, has since discovered even smaller aspects of lesser quantity than the atom. We know there are quarks and other descriptions of things that are smaller in the magnifying glass or in the imagination of the scientist than the atom. Now, a thing's oneness is called a monad, M-O-N-A-D. And you should be looking up these words on your own when the class is concluded. A thing's oneness is called a monad, which is an arithmetical unit. The word unit, U-N-I-T, is the word atom, A-T-O-M, and Adam, A-D-A-M, in disguise. The word unit is the words atom and Adam in disguise. Let's look at it. This vowel sound, which is a guttural sound, U, matches the guttural sound in a tom and a dam. That a is also this U as an open-mouthed vowel. Now, if you understand that, then you will understand that atom means a unit. And Adam means a unit. That means if you are one of the Banu Adam, the children of Adam, you're supposed to be unified. What are you out here talking about? The black man is the God, and the white man is better than the black folks, better than them niggas. And is your father Adam? If it is, you're supposed to be under this unifying banner that these letters are pressing your brain to recognize and respect. Allah gives us that respect in the Quran. He says that he has created all of the children of Adam noble, generous. We're special people as humans, special creatures as humans. But we're not going to be able to take advantage of that specialness until we admit and commit to this unity. As humans, I'm talking now. Forget your race and ethnic group and all of that. That's in your mind. Your intellect did that. Allah didn't do that. Allah created the human person, as Imam Muhammad liked to call us, the human person. He used person for a reason, because it means persona or sonar. It means you operate by way of sonar, sound. You are a creation of sound. Everything in creation actually is, but particularly the human creation is a creation of kun fayakun. Whereas the Bible would say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word took on flesh and dwelt among us. You don't think there's you, Mr. and Mrs.? Little guy, little girl? That's you God's talking to in both of these scriptures. So if you add the Arabic word ummat to this list, then you'll see that because N interchanges with M, and because the D interchanges with the T, then the word ummat is also the word unit. Isn't that beautiful? So the ummat is supposed to be one. What's wrong with you guys and girls in the world? Shia, Sunni, Ahmadi. Where's the oneness in all of that? Even believe God sent down a different set of instructions and you're supposed to be reading the same book. God said, kill the kafirs. Where's that in the Quran? That just outright blank, cut and dry. And where God leaves you to determine who the kafir is or what a kafir is. And your dumb brain has figured out that it's your grandmother who raised you, because she doesn't want to take Shahada and she wants to die a Christian saying, Jesus is my Lord. So you want to show her quickly who the real Lord is. You stop visiting her. You stop helping her. When your mama wasn't there for you, your grandmama raised you, changed your nasty diapers, taught you what she could from her educational perspective, gave you chump change to go to school and get some lunch. And all of a sudden, since you took Shahada, what you call Shahadatain, twain, now all of a sudden, your grandma's a kafir, and it don't matter whether she gets sick from whatever. You're not going to go visit her. You're not even going to call her, even though you can't get sick over the phone. And the last time I checked, but she's a kafir, so you can't do that. Allah says in Surah 4, Ayat 1, يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. Oh, mankind, all of us, not ya ayyuhal muslimun, no. Ya ayyuhan nas, all of us, all humans and nas. And trust me when I tell you that this consonantal connection is real that I'm about to give you. And nas are supposed to be the nice people. The nas people are not supposed to be nasty people. They're supposed to be the nice people. You hear nice and nas? how they sound almost the same. So that's how you should teach your babies, your grandchildren, your children in the school. Say, children, when you hear in the Quran where God uses the term nas, I want you to think nice. So when you run across people who ain't so nice, it's because they're not living up to being nas as God created them. Isn't that a wonderful curriculum? That's easy on the brain, especially of an African American. Let's continue. Now, so he created us from a single person, min nafsin wahida. That is a slight reference to the dielectric inertia plane existence that we spoke of earlier. It's singular. But out of that singularity comes a duality, created of like nature, his mate. They should not have said his. If they were going to give a gender, they should have said her. Because it says minha, zawjaha, from her, her mate. Ha is her. Ha is her. But we don't want to get into that technical argument tonight. So we'll say it, and created from it, its mate. That means that out of that oneness comes a two-ness. There was the potential for duality buried within that oneness. So that goes to show you that there's nothing truly representative of oneness except for Allah, who is wahid, wahidun. Everything else, although it is perceived as one, there's a hidden two-ness within the oneness. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Yeah.
Beautiful. Allahu Akbar.
Yeah. So, Mr. As bold and bodacious and manly as you might think you are, there's a female, there's a feminine side in you. It's buried and it's there. It creeps out every now and then. Somebody, you know, one of your homies dies from whatever, getting shot up in the gang war, whatever, and you sniffle and that little tear fall out your eye. That's that feminine side in you. It's in there. You're just burying it, and you don't have to. That woman who needs to be strong, and she's afraid that being strong, people might perceive her as being manly, but that's in you. You remember Ellie Mae? Was that the Beverly Hillbillies? Boy, that lady was gorgeous, but she was manly. Whoever that actress is, I saw her recently. She still looks great. All these many years later, but she was young then, very young then. But the point is that she do farm work and wrestle pigs and all kinds of crazy stuff. But when she put on that little dress to go out to the dinner or whatever, to, you know, come down to the dinner table, she was gorgeous, Ellie Mae, whatever the last name was. All right, because both of these polarities exist within each individual, and that's a wonderful thing. So, created from the two of them, scattered like seeds, countless men and women, so 3 and more come out of that. And you know that the letter that represents 3 or more things in the Arabic alphabet is tha. Tha. So when Allah speaks about the 3 or more, he uses the word wa batha. See that? With a shadda over the tha. Batha. Wherever you see tha, it means 3. You see in English, 3, th, 3, th, 3. You don't see it in 2. You don't hear it in 2, the th. Because the T sound only represents twice or twain or two-ness. But when you get to the TH sound, if I say you, go sit over there. I'm one person talking to you, another person, telling you about another spot I want you to be in. That's a third reference to something. If I say that girl over there, I can't say that to my own self. I have to say that to you. Stevie Wonder said that girl thinks that she's so fine that soon she'll have my mind. He was talking to a third person when he said that girl. Yeah, I pulled that off even with a scratchy throat. Alhamdulillah. So from those two, he scattered countless men and women. Reverence Allah or have taqwa for Allah, for God, through whom you demand your mutual rights, and have taqwa for the wombs that bore you, for Allah ever watches over you. We've discussed this ayat many countless times, so we won't go through the nuances of that. But the point is that the oneness produced a two-ness that produced a three and more-ness. That's the picture I want you to get. Remember, the dielectric inertia plane, that oneness, produced a polarity called redshift, blue shift, a two-ness, that then went on to produce multiple streams of energies called the chakras and torus field energies that go way out from the body and affect other things and gather other and interfere with other energies and feed off of other energies. And so it's the same process. The Quran is outlining them for us in a way that gives us a template for any patterns that follow that pattern. Not just talking about the birth of a baby. That's not what the Quran came to do. The Quran is cosmic. One reference will refer to hundreds and maybe thousands of things for your mind to explore. Continuing. Surah 23, ayat 52 says, وَإِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَأَنَا رَبُّكُمْ. And verily, or surely, without doubt. Now look at the translation here. This brotherhood. It doesn't say brotherhood. It doesn't say ikhwan. It says ummah. And that's a feminine word. How they get brotherhood out of that? Anyway, it should be community. You see in community. Unity. The unity of the ummah. This community of yours is a single community. Ummatan wahidatan. Remember what we said about the word ummat being related to unit, oneness? These are your proofs, especially those of you who are able to teach khutbahs or stand in front of classrooms or just stand in the masjid or the church or wherever you want to teach this. This is your opportunity to be crystal clear with people. Say, did you ever think, brother, that the word ummat is related to the English word unit? Don't you know what I'm teaching you is the quickest way for you to get the attention of English-speaking people? I know some of you have tried it and you know it works. You can't go to the Christians and your family members who don't know anything about the Quran. You can't go to most Muslims trying to teach them Arabic because they don't know it. But if you go to them with something they already know and stop trying to, feed them or force feed them whole ayats and surahs and all of that, which is what another Ramadan is going to be. I'm sorry, but that's what it turns out to be. People call themselves listening to or reciting the entire Quran and maybe understanding Al-Fatiha and some of the very short surahs at the end of the book. And that's been your experience for the past 10 years. You're wasting your time. And you tell people, you tell them Instructor Bilal said you're wasting your time. I like to challenge people like that. So y'all are wasting your time listening all day. Did you understand what the Qari said in that line that you stood on for 40 minutes straight? Did you understand any of that? Well, why don't you include in your study a system that can allow you to begin recognizing those sounds? And if not recognizing them, at least you can have an intelligible conversation and ask the Imam, say, Imam, did you realize that the word ummat is sounding a little bit like the English word unit? Did you know, Imam, that the letter M and the letter N are interchangeable? He's going to tell you on the most part. No, I didn't realize. I'm glad you brought that to my attention. I'm going to look more into that. N and M are nasals in linguistics, and you can interchange them. Even in English, you can interchange the N and the M. So the word for community is ummat. I know we say ummah, but the tab marbuta ending renders it ummat, as you see it here. Ummatan. See? Ummatan. So it's interchangeable with Adam and Atom when letters are interposed. So the community, the ummah, should be operating upon the same fitra-based platform as guess who? Adam. Is your ummah beginning with your family? That's an ummah. Beginning with your local place, that's an ummah. Are they operating upon the principle of Adam? And we've spoken over and over again about what Adam means. Breath in the blood, spirituality, commingling with social relevance. Is also spiritual. That's the breath. Dam means blood, which represents the social nature. So the spirit being infused into the social nature so that you don't only have social concerns like making money and sexual reproduction and friendship in all walks of life. No, you can't just have that, because somebody's going to walk into that wanting to be your friend and they're going to take you out of your fitra. So you better have brought with you the balance of spiritual insight and inquiry. What's his behavior like? He's asking me to marry him. What's his behavior like? You don't just want to know who his people are, who your daddy, who's your family before you marry my daughter. You want to know who are you spiritually, psychologically. Where are you coming from? Where have you been? You've been locked up. You've been wherever. You need to know these things, not to hold it against them necessarily, but you need to know. You did 10 years, hard time. You just got out 2 years ago. You still halfway horny, and you want to marry my virgin daughter. No. No. Pure women for pure men. We'll get into that some other day. I'll find you somebody who's your running partner. I'll find you somebody who was in the, who was locked up in the town next to you, maybe. And maybe y'all can talk. And she's doing well. She's got her own business. You trying to start your own business? You got a lot in common. I'll introduce you to her, but I'm not going to introduce you to my virgin daughter with all of the A pluses and in college and doing well and starting her own business and making her own money. And no, it doesn't make you evil. It just makes you not the most compatible person for my daughter's interests. Moving right along. I step on toes, but I give you Band-Aids. So this word tom in atom represents a dividing of the monad. And you can see the N and the D in the word monad, but the prefix MO in monad here represents motion or movement. So it's the movement of the ND, and as I said, N interchanges with M. So it's really MD, or if you interchange the D with the T, MT. Here you got it. TM. Here you got it. TM. Here you got it. DM instead of TM, but they're all interchangeable. Adam, atom, and monad all allude to being not divided. The A privative. makes it mean not divided. Tam means divided. Dam means divided. You might say, I thought you said it meant blood, instructor. Yes, it does. Well, you need to do some cursory investigation into the separate parts of the blood. Go check your blood cells. Are they all the same? Don't you got some white ones sneaking around there as soldiers looking out for you? Don't you have lymph as fluids in your body also, running in separate streams from the bloodstream? The lymph is carrying out the waste from the body, while the blood is bringing in the nutrition from the body. So the blood is the blood. Isn't it divided into what's that? Somebody give me, my brain is a little bit tired, but tell me what that powdery stuff is in the blood. Nobody knows? What makes the blood liquid? Or if the liquid were not in the blood, if the water content were not in the blood, what's that word?
Would be material.
Yeah, there's a science word for it. I'm trying to remember the science word. You know what? Plasma. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, plasma. That's the word I'm looking for. All right, let's continue. When we don't know, we don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you, I don't know, or I forgot. It's not a big deal. But thank you for attempting. Now, look at this very carefully. Atom, and monad allude to being not divided, but the word divide is hiding the word Eve inside of it. You see this? Take the D off and just look at the IVI. That's the same as EVE. Vowels flanking it, V in the middle. Eve means even. See, if I divide something, you want it to be even. You don't want to give one child something and then give the next child who's deserving of the same amount of that thing something lesser. You want to be even Steven. And even alludes to something being two-sided. So from the one, Adam, min nafsin wahida, in other words, comes the zawjaha, the two, where Eve is now introduced into the equation. That's why the translators can't help but say from him, his mate, because they're thinking that that's speaking to Eve, and it's not necessarily speaking to Eve, it's speaking to a scientific and metaphysical principle of operation. The splitting of the atom produced neutrons, protons, and electrons. The splitting of the atom. And the splitting of Adam's chest produced Eve, Cain, and Abel. This is the Bible I'm teaching now, not the Quran. The Bible says that God split Adam's chest open, not in those words, but it says that he removed a rib from his chest. So he had to split the chest open in order to accomplish that. So the splitting of that chest, he was able to pull out a rib from which he formed Eve, according to this Bible language. And Eve then went on to have Adam's first two children called Cain and Abel. Now listen to this carefully. Eve is the dielectric inertia plane. Still letting people in, give me just a moment. Eve, I repeat, is the dielectric inertia plane. That straight line we talked about, that became vertical and that produced the red shift, blue shift circles of energy. That's Eve in the middle, even. If it were laying on its side, it would be horizontal. That's Eve. And blue shift would be on top, red shift would be on the bottom. All right. So Eve, I repeat, is the dielectric inertia plane. Cain is red shift on the right, and Abel is the blue shift on the left. All right. And in fact, you can even see in the word Abel an allusion to the word blue. The BL, able, and Bilu, blue. Now, all of you are familiar with the yin yang symbol, and you may not know that there are two different symbols that look like this. One is this black and white one that I'm showing you, and there's a secondary one that is red and blue. You'll see it in a moment. They are not the same. They don't mean the same thing. Space and time were created out of counter space. This symbol was intended to represent counter space. Not going to go into all of the nitty-gritty details, just follow the logic to its logical conclusion. Life emanates out of a black and white magneto-dielectric inertia plane in counter space. I know that most of you, maybe all of you, none of you, I should say, know what I'm talking about. Don't worry about that. I'm establishing the language so that you can go back and study if you have that will. It'll be so plain to you if you study it that you'll surprise yourself. You'll have a V8 moment sitting there studying this if you listen back and actually reference and look stuff up in dictionaries and all of that. You'll get this. This is not really rocket science as it's sounding. It only sounds like that because of this level of information, as I said earlier, has been intentionally kept back from the masses of people. The masses of people were created on this planet as work slaves, not needing excessive amounts of information. So you just have to come out of that mindset and become more invested in your own growth and development as an intellect and as a soul, even more importantly. So life, I repeat, emanates out of a black and white, what's called a magneto. Magneto means non-magnetic. Dielectric means magneto means non-magnetic or non-magnetized. Dielectric means non-electric. So this is the plane of existence where both magnetism and electricity are lying dormant. That's what we mean. And that's given the shades of black and white. Now, we're going to explain this term counter space momentarily. This is the black and white that W.D. Farrad's lessons were most concerned with. How do you know that, instructor dude? I don't have time to help you understand that. I would only ask your sincere heart to just believe it because I said it. And I don't ask that a whole lot. I've never asked anybody to do that. But for the sake of progress regarding tonight's information, I'm going to ask you to believe it right now and hopefully understand it before we conclude. But it'll help your heart and it'll help your brain if you believe that right now. That Mr. W.D. Farrad was not talking so much about race and ethnicity and colors of skin when he spoke about the white man, black man, brown man, red man, yellow man, so forth. He was talking about energies. He was talking conceptually, and he was talking metaphysically. Metaphysically. The part of the land, the part of the world that he came from, this was common language among the elite learners of ancient India, ancient Africa, these places, ancient Egypt, those places. They didn't see terms in the way that we've been taught terms. We've been taught the literalization of language. Those people were on a much higher level of registration when it came to understanding the meanings behind words that they were being taught. None of them thought when they heard the word for man that it meant body, physical body. They all knew that man meant something taking place inside of the head. They knew that, and they linked up their language to support that and to pass that logic down to their future generations. But to sidestep the lazy ass ones who didn't want to study on that level, they put little grenades and stuff in their language that would just go off and take you with it if you really weren't interested in that level of study. And you would stay the footstools of that society and of the so-called elite who needed a certain number of people all of the time to do the grunt work by force if necessary. So we're talking now about becoming scholars all over again. We're actually, with Nunetics, talking about the creation of a brand new golden age for Muslims primarily, but for Muslims primarily from the experience created by the language and logic of Imam Wadathuddin Muhammad. Now, if you have a problem with that, I don't mean B-U-I, B-Y-E dash B-Y-E. If you have a problem with that, you're blowing your own blessing, Muslim. Because a Negro said it, you can't accept it. You don't believe it. Because I didn't bring you all of my facts and figures as to how I came up with this, you won't accept it. Well, you should reject most of what you've learned as Islam because you accepted it because Bukhari said it. You accepted it because this other translator said it. Yusuf Ali said it. You didn't question Yusuf. Why are you going to question me? Why are you going to question Imam Muhammad? Why are you going to question these other leaders who put years of study into this language and logic? And reduced it down to a level where the average one of us can entertain it and accept it. Why are you going to question us? Why are you going to question Salim Mu'min, Imam Yahya Abdullah? And why? Fatima Fanusi, Dr. Fatima Fanusi and her findings. Why you want to question her, but you won't question another guy who wrote a big old thick book on W.D. Farad, 500, 600 pages, and you won't find one page to question to that because you see him as a real scholar. We look at each other and we think we're still fumbling in the dark, but we're not. We're being gifted by God. You'll see it shortly. Let me continue. I'm going to try to do this without those kinds of interruptions, but my soul was disturbed.
Allahu Akbar.
Alhamdulillah. So this is the black and the white that W.D. Farad's lessons were most concerned with. Not that he wasn't concerned with race issues, but that wasn't his major concern. He was speaking, as Imam Muhammad told us, through symbolism, and Imam Muhammad said that everything he gave us was symbolism. He didn't say, he said, I'm not telling you some things. He said, I said everything that Mr. W.D. Farad gave us was symbolism. He said, even down to the foods that he told us to eat. When you're reading How to Eat to Live, and you read about the brown, the blackened rice and the bean soup, and all of that was symbolism before it was to be registered as actual literal language. At the center of the torus field is what is called a hyperbola, or hyperbola, properly pronounced. And hyperbola means excessive and warlike energy. That's existing in the center of each and every one of our torus fields. Hyper means excessive. Bola is from bull, which means warlike. When you go into war, they call it bol. Antebellum means against the war. Anti-war. Bellum, war. B-O-L, bull. That's why so many of these so-called gods in the ancient world were given to us in bull images. B-U-L-L. The Bible has Baal, Baal, B-A-A-L, Balaam, B-A-A-L-U-M, plural for Baal. The Bible has Bilal as an epithet of the devil. And I think that's why a lot of African Americans didn't buy it when Imam Muhammad called us Bilalian, because they know that in the Old Testament, there's the word Bilal. And he's called a worthless thing. So you got to understand what you're up against when you're trying to establish new concepts. So that's real close. Bilal. That's just a vowel away, right? So, we need to rethink these things when we're trying to introduce them to other than ourselves, because we might not be familiar with that in the Bible, but the preacher is. One preacher stood up and said, call me Bilalian, but how many followed? So you got to be careful with language. Now, Mr. Farad was introducing the wave particle theory into the African American community of nascent Muslim thinkers. Mr. Farad wanted a sizable number of us to become scientists, especially linguistic scientists. He said, Islam is mathematics and mathematics is Islam. He wanted us to grow into the sciences of math and into the sciences of language. He wanted us to become language aficionados. He said he spoke 16 languages. You say, well, how can he be God? That's a good question. He said he understood so many languages, but he only spoke 16. But because we don't study on that level, we're not understanding where he was coming from with that. He knew that people would question that and say, well, how can he be God? God should be able to speak all languages.
Yes.
But what we don't know, that he did know, is that if you boil all of the world's languages down to phonetics, there will only be 16 phonemes that are responsible for all languages spoken on planet Earth. And it goes back to what I told you about the 7 areas of pronunciation in the human mouth.
Allahu Akbar.
When they become language expressions, they multiply. Betha minhuma. When they remain as a straight plane of understanding sounds in the mouth, then they are the same 7 sounds representing the same thing as the 7 basic chakric energies in you. It's all related. It's all fitrah. Mr. Farad knew what he was talking about. That's why Imam Muhammad said, we may have to go back and reinvestigate that man's wisdom. Who are we to say God can't bless people with wisdom? I don't care what they're doing wrong. Allah is the one to judge what they're doing right and wrong. But we are not the ones to decide who God is going to bless with knowledge and understanding. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Wasn't he a drug dealer? I read that in a book. I don't know. I wasn't there. Didn't he have multiple wives? The fraud, didn't he? I can't answer that. I wasn't around, and he didn't put that in his lessons. I don't know. Why would I want to know that if he didn't publicize it? That's the equivalent of looking through somebody's window trying to catch them having illegal sex. Well, I look like creeping up in his backyard trying to see what he's doing from the back window and reading 15 books at 200 pages, 300 pages each on what he was doing that he didn't publicize. Explain to me what he did that he did publicize. Give me that language. Let me see if you can handle that. That's what Imam Muhammad was dealing with. And that's what you and I should be dealing with, not this other stuff. He was creating scientists. Even amongst Minister Farrakhan's community, there are brilliant people, men and women and children, graduating from high school into some of the finest colleges. It was happening in the days of Elijah Muhammad when he was present. It happened under Imam W.D. Muhammad. And it's also happening in the community of Minister Louis Farrakhan. When you're sincere and you're studying to advance more than just yourself, God blesses you.
Yes.
And it's clear. God blesses you. So what I look like turning a deaf ear and a deaf or blind eye to them. Some of them were just born 20 years ago. Minister Wesley Muhammad, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, he's just 42, 43 years old. He talked like he'd been here for decades, but he hasn't. I can overlook some of that, forgive and overlook some of what he's saying that I disagree with. It doesn't mean I have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I'd love to have a conversation with him. We get some things straight in less than an hour. I tried it once and he ran out on me. But that's my brother. That's my brother. He's bigger and bolder now than he was that many 5, 6 years ago, whatever that was, in New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey, in a barbershop. He brought a whole lot of books. I brought just me. And he packed up his books. Brother that was there with him, he said, you need to pack up your books and just sneak out of there. Because he told him, he said, Imam Bilal is slaughtering you. I tried to get him on the phone after that. His buddies, they seem not to be have been able to get. But we're going to get to Wesley. If we can get to Minister Farrakhan. I'd love to put a bug in his ear, not the roach. Not the roach, but the ruh, that bug. Yeah, somebody's got their phone open. Hold on. All right, let's continue. Now, I'm not going to read all of this here. I'm going to save time and consolidate. But basically what this is doing is giving you an overview of what a wave-particle duality is in physics. And it reduces to what they call the Ohm particle, OM particle. And I'm saying that on the heels of speaking about the or the Ummah, the Ummat. All right. So he says here that the Ohm particle, it's another way of saying wave particle. The Ohm is the wave. And it's a euphemism for wave-particle duality, where Ohm is the wave. Waves and particles are incommensurate principles. That means you cannot measure them. A wave is not a particle, and a particle is not a wave. But together, they form a kind of duality. Listen carefully. This is the other aspect of the principle of incommensurability. In nature, incommensurate principles coexist and work together in a conjugate fashion. Conjugate, he explains, coupled means coupled or joined together, especially in pairs. So when you see that, and then you read in the Quran where Zawjain means pairs, something's supposed to click. And maybe conjugate is another word for Zawj. Now, if you look at the word conjugate, don't you see the Zawj staring at you, J-U-G sound? Con means with. Yes, the Zawj. No, I'm wrong. Let me correct myself. That's not a Z. So let me back up. But you'll see it in this word. It means the same thing. If I redeemed it myself, zygote. That's when the initial unicell splits and becomes polarized. Isn't that beautiful? Can I get some credit for redeeming myself?
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, sir. Alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar. Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
That's true humanity.
Indeed. All right, let's push on. All right. So the important part of what he's saying here, black is not white and white is not black, but together they can form all the levels of gray. See, when they come together, 1 is not 0 and 0 is not 1, but together they can be used to represent information in the form of the binary system. Bi means 2, the binary system. Without the binary numbers, and that's what every computer is made of. You couldn't have computer technology without the binary system of ones and zeros put together. Zeros and ones put together. Without that, there would be no computers, and without the computers, the Mandelbrot set might never have been discovered. In a similar manner, without wave-particle duality, the universe might not even exist. Now I'm going to leave it there. If you're interested in that, you should want to Google Mandelbrot set. Don't leave it to the teacher to teach you everything. Be curious. Now, we're going to push past this domain of counter space, but you'll get to that on your own. This is that secondary yin-yang symbol I was telling you about. The first one was black and white. This one is blue and red shift, as you can see. All right. And I'm giving you another version of that in the torus field energies. You see the redness on the bottom. You see the dielectric inertia plane running on top. It began as a black dot in the center before anything else manifested. It was a black dot, what you would see as a period, just like this period here. It began like that. And then a whiteness manifested that eventually produced the exoskeletal after the Ruh had arrived. So the Ruh gave that black dot its enlightenment, and it became both black and white, as you saw in the original yin-yang symbol. And if you look up the words black and white in a good dictionary, you're going to see that they're actually the same word. I know many of you have done that already. The word bleach means white, but it's
Akbar.
connected to the word black. Yes, sir. All right. So black and white mean the same thing in the dictionary. Blanque, what is that? Blanque in Spanish. See? But
White.
but it's related to the word black. Be lacking, black. So the point is that they're both the same. And that's what W.D. Farad was dealing with, for those of you who need to know that in this late day and time. Now, so as he says here at the end of his thing, and this is short enough for me to read, in the OM particle theory, counter space is defined as a domain. And I shouldn't have to tell you that the word Adam is hiding in the word domain. To say that counter space doesn't exist is to say that darkness doesn't exist, or that voltage doesn't exist, or that potential energy doesn't exist. The terms of darkness, voltage, and potential energy belongs to the domain of counter space in the OM particle theory. So all of those things are activities taking place in counter space. Now, it's going to get real interesting from here. All properties of the material world emanate out of counter space. We're getting a little bit more spiritual now. All properties, everything that you see around you, in you, originate out of what's being called counter space. You've heard of space, but how many have heard of counter space and understood counter space? So that's what we're discussing right now. And it's discussed in the cosmic Quran. We'll get to that. Our thoughts and emotions also emanate from and return to counter space. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Without doubt, we are property of Allah. That's what lillahi means. It means you belong to Allah. You're His property. Wa inna ilayhi, and surely without doubt, raji'un, we are constantly returning to Him. Yeah. Allahu Akbar. See? Inna lillahi, certainly we are the property of God. Wa inna ilayhi, And surely to him, he didn't say to Allah. He said, Ilahi. He weakened the strength of his presence when he talked about the return. In the initial emanation, Inna lillahi. Inna lillahi. Without doubt, we are the property of Allah. No doubt about it. Wa inna ilayhi. And without doubt, it is to him, Raji'un, Raja'a, that we are constantly returning. Boy, oh boy, we're going to understand this cosmic Quran.
Wonderful, wonderful. Praise be to Allah.
You think there's just something you say somebody dies or gets sick, See, we've been given the welfare watered down version of Quranic logic. And we haven't been paying close enough attention to Imam Muhammad, who told us years ago that that's not what that was talking about. That's not what you say when somebody dies. We are all returning to God's system of energy, revolving and reiterated energies. Energy does not die. It returns to its source. And it does so on multiple levels. It happens to us every time we close our eyes and go to sleep and wake up the next morning. We've returned. I'm back. It's not rocket science, but it applies on levels that have yet to be discovered even. Let's continue. Counter space. The Quran calls the quote unquote writings which have been vouchsafed al-kitab. Everybody knows that. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. That is the book. Not this is the book. That, ذلك. Not هذا Quran or kitab. ذلك الكتاب. That thing in the distance over there, it's not here where we are yet. The understanding of it is not present in our minds, in our present day minds and reality and usage, but we're working our way there. Like the spinner said, I'm working my way back to you, babe, with a burning love inside. That's how you should be for El Kitab. You shouldn't have let it get away. You should be praying every day. That's the spinners talking to you. All right. So Al-Kitab, I told you also, is represented in our individual body. Our individual body, like we say, my life is an open book. This body is an open book. All you got to do is learn to read it, and you can fix any problem, any ailment, any sickness, any disease, except death, as the Hadith reports. So there's a fix for everything else except death. Death, you gotta go there. But you don't have to go wheezing and crying and sniffing and bleeding and scratching where it don't itch and all. You don't have to go out like that. I'm going to be trying to do my level best to not leave here unnecessarily. That kind of psychological, subconscious suicide that some of us are going through, putting ourselves through, and causing other people to go through who we're causing to just worry about us for no good reasons. Why won't he stop drinking? Why won't she stop whoremongering? Why we causing other people to have heart attacks and high blood pressure and all that kind of stuff? And we're leaving here much too soon, much earlier than Allah actually would prescribe. So Al-Kitab is, you're the smaller kitab. The macrocosm is the greater kitab. And within the construction of the macrocosm, there is an area of the macrocosmic existence that is kitab. And it is existing within the realm of not space and time, but counter space, where time does not exist. Time is linear. What we're talking about is information that is emanating from something that has nothing to do with lengths of time as we know it, from AD to BC, or from BC to AD, and all of that. It has nothing to do with that. That's man's secular world. Science calls what I'm talking about ether. In psychology, they refer to it as the sixth sense. There are your 5 basic senses, and then they say there's a 6th sense. If you've seen that movie, you'll understand some of what I'm referring to. In physics, I believe, it's referred to as the 5th element. You know about the 4 elements: water, air, fire, earth. But there's also the 5th, which they call actually the 1st element, and that's ether. So understand what's being said. Ether contains the information that the Quran is referring to as al-kitab, that has no raib in it, no doubt, no exaggeration, no mistakes, no erasure marks, because kitab, kataba, means to etch. It doesn't mean to write. It means to etch into something so that the
Wonderful.
carving become permanent. Someone opened up their phone for a reason, or is that a mistake? Thank you. So again, Al-Kitab exists within the realm of counter space, and you'll hear Muslims from other parts of the world intimate that there's a greater Quran that's being preserved. It's in the Quran also. Ramadan. Hold on. That there's a greater Quran that produced the Quran that you read every Ramadan. And they say it's above the 7th heaven, but they're not understanding that it's referring to ether and the ideas and information that emanate out of the ether, as they say. Let's push a little bit further, and then we're going to quit for tonight. So the Arabic word Allah encapsulates the original counter space signal or signature, responsible for the creation of all things within the material universe. Let's back up and go slow. The Arabic word that we all use as Muslims, that's in the Quran, called Allah. Allah. It encapsulates the original counter space signal or signature that's responsible for the creation of all things within the material universe. You see how we're told to say before we begin any act of significance, to say Bismillah? That's an energy signal. You think that's just you talking to yourself to hear you talk? Allah designed that signature, that basmala, as an energy signature. And it is commanding parts of the human brain, parts of the human nervous system to act within a particular reference, or to act within a particular circumference of action. This is revelation we're talking about, not common talk. So these are signatures. That's why I say Bismillah is with Allah's signature, not just name, with Allah's signature. The one who is Allah is about to manifest as a polarity. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. So the basmala goes from oneness of Allah, singular and unique, wahid, to a polarity existence, so to speak, in these 2 different but related concepts. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. It doesn't say Ar-Rahman war-Rahim, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim are two different manifestations out of one principle of operation. And they emanate out of counter space. Allah conceptually is operating within the framework of counter space. He's not limited to time and circumstances and birth dates and having babies and getting married. That's not what Allah does. He's operating out of a counter spatial existence, if I can use that term. And that counter space, I repeat, is an alternate name for the ether. Now, none of this can explain or describe Allah accurately or adequately. So let's begin there. Every time we're reading about what Allah does, we're reading about what Allah does, not necessarily what Allah is. He is beyond. I feel cheapened even to say he in this framework, that he is beyond description. But my soul is not comfortable saying it is beyond. So we don't have words. I don't think in any language that would satisfy us. I don't think we'll be satisfied until we have that opportunity, inshallah, to meet. I'm using that very gingerly and gently, to meet our Rabb. That'll happen, but it won't happen in this existence. So stay tuned, T-U-N-E-D. Now, Allah creates an original signal. So it's the signal that we're talking about that begins theoretically as a black dot. Allah is not a black dot. He created an original signal as a black dot or as a period. You know how they say this period starts at this date? Science calls it a big bang. The mistake that science is making is that they're saying that everything came out of nothing or nothing. Whereas the reality is that everything came out of everything, but that everything exists in a different dimension under a different principle of operation called the ether. You ever ask yourself, how did the one that they're calling the angel Jibreel, who recited the Quran to Muhammad the Prophet, causing him to become a prophet, where did he learn the Quran? Talking about Jibreel. Where did he learn the Quran? He had to learn it, he had to know it in order to teach it to Muhammad. Counter space. Out of the ether. Continuing.
Allahu Akbar.
Oh, this is juicy tonight. Don't burn that juicy steak if you're making it in the background, but pay attention to the juicy information. So, W.D. Farad, he referred to this original emanation. You see that man? You see man hiding in emanation, and Iman is hiding in there also. But this means the coming out of the man, of the mind. W.D. Farad referred to the original emanation, which we know as man or mind. He referred to it as the original black man. The original black man. He wasn't talking about flesh and blood. He was talking about principles of operation. What a wise man. May Allah forgive him any sins, grant that man paradise. And out of that original emanation called the black man, all of the other races came. You see, that's the ether. Everything comes out of the ether. This polarization then manifests outwardly to become two polarized left-right energies known as red shift, right side, blue shift, left side. Look at all the red and blue symbolism we have. We talk about red blood and the blue bloods. The blue bloods are the aristocrats, right? The blue bloods. We talk about the red pill and the blue pill from the Matrix. Red water, that tap is usually seen, is usually under the hot water dispenser, right? If it's red, you know that's hot water. If the dispenser is blue, we know that's cold water. See, this red shift, blue shift is everywhere. When our baby girls are born, we like to dress them in pink. This is a light in the form of red, and we like to dress our baby boys in sky blue, a light in the form of blue. We even have red clay. In the Bible, the word Adam means red clay. And we also have the evening blue sky, right? Evening, Eve is hiding in evening blue sky. So going back to the dot is the central point connection to counter space, which is a realm beyond what we know as the quote unquote space-time continuum. The space-time continuum that gives us this linear reality. The central point that connects us to counter space is beyond space-time continuums. That's why you can't say God was born on February 26th, 1886, Nation of Islam folks, because you have committed God to a space-time continuum. Information is being communicated to your counter-spatial intelligence, what I call the supra-intuition in you. It's suffering right now because it doesn't have a home in most people's intellects. But that's what we're in the process of developing through Nunetics and through other means and methods. That's where your intuition is able to tap directly into counter-spatial intelligence, tap directly into El Kitab, where there's no raib fihi. And it happens once you learn how to communicate with the ether. Communicating through the ether is communicating with God. That's his realm. Above the seventh heaven, that's his realm. That's his throne, waiting for you to petition him. All humans have the ability to perceive from this realm. And as I said earlier, this is actually how Allah communicates. He says, I repeat, that I answer the call of the caller, but he doesn't stop there. When he calls. So if you don't call, you don't get no answer. If you call the wrong number, you don't get no answer. If you don't know what to make the call on, you don't get an answer. If you're not patient enough to receive an answer, to wait there for the phone to ring back, etc., etc. And the phone rings immediately back, but now you're too busy watching your widescreen television to even hear that the phone is trying to reach you. God's trying to reach you back. Ujibu is the word Allah uses for how he responds to you. That means immediately. That means that he puts the human being as a priority. But when he uses the word to describe how we should respond to him, it's put in the form of a verb that suggests, well, you know, if you get to it. Oh boy, Allah is so wonderful. Said, will they respond to my call when I call? Allah says, but he uses a weaker form of that same verb. Istajibu. Maybe, if perchance, if you get around to it, respond to my call also. But ujibu, that's put in the form that says, right away, I'm dropping it. You have become my priority human because you decided to call on me and I got what you need. So if you're not getting, I'm repeating, if you're not getting what you need and you're calling on Allah, you're making the wrong call, or you're calling on the wrong one, or you're calling with the wrong energy, the wrong frequency, you're dialing the wrong number, or you're hanging up before you get an answer, or you're not listening for the ring that comes right back as soon as you put the phone handle down. The younger people listening, you might not know what I'm talking about. Phone handle, but I think you do. Now let's look at this. This is wonderful, as Michael Hameen would say hello when he says that, right? Now, Think about your Ethernet cable. It's doing the same thing. You see, when Allah says, hold on to the cable of Allah, to the rope of Allah, what do you think he's talking about? Where's that ceiling that he's talking about? He speaks about a ceiling that people try to attach to and climb up to the ceiling and all. What is he talking about? He's talking about this science. Same thing your Ethernet cable is doing. You hook it up in one spot and you got automatic Wi-Fi wherever you go in the house, sometimes outside of the house. So your Ethernet cable doing exactly the same thing as when you learn how to communicate with God etherically or through his ether. All of these actions are operating as principles of electromagnetism. Electromagnetism is what the universe uses in order to stay in existence. It's what Allah created to keep the universe functioning. Electromagnetism. We live in an electric world, but we live based in principles of a magnetism that keeps everything where it's supposed to be. And magnetism is the greater force over electricity. Electricity is the weaker force in regards to magnetism. Understand that. Magnetism is the feminine force, feminine principled force. Electricity is the masculine principled force. And Allah says in the Quran, and the dhakar is in no ways like the untha. That means that the dhakar is in no ways as dynamic as magnetism, as the female, untha, the one who sucks things in. Untha gives us the English word enter. Enter is a magnetic principle. Dhakar is an electric principle. Dhakar, that's electric. That's electric. Untha, that nun, that N is sucking your tongue to the back of your teeth. It's magnetic. Untha. Then it's producing all over the place. Isn't that what the female does? She sucks in your sperm seed and she begins to produce all over the place. 1 baby, 2 babies, 3 babies, twins, triplets. She's untha. From anatha, means to be soft, like iron. See, iron, magnetism. That's what it, look these words up. Untha. The sounds give the meanings of these words away. Allah wants you to have them. That's why he put the Quran in these particular words and sounds and trusted that we would be prudent enough to want to study these sounds. We don't even have to be in a classroom for that. All we got to do is be sitting, laying in our bed, thinking about the sounds in Al-Fatiha, if that's all we know. And ha, hamd, ha, ha. Put your hand in front of your mouth. What is that letter saying to you? M, ham, ham, hamd, d, resistance, d, hamd. That speaks to the human intellect if you would just give it a chance. Anyway, when the electromagnetic signal becomes dampened or deadened, the signal or the life force becomes inactivated. We call it death. You see, death means that you're traveling back through the door and back to the ether. Look at the, I should have put it here, I'll do it now. But look at the word death. Door, ether. It's the door back to the ether. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. You're going back to your resting point, but raji'un means a high station. That's what we're praying for. Raji'un is not just back laterally or horizontally. Raji'un means back on top, back up towards the excellence that God created you to perform in. You know what a Raja is in India? It's a king. Come on now, somebody say something about that. Hey, listen. Yeah, let's get some of that feminine energy on the line. If you don't know what a Raja is, Rajah, you should know what a Rijal is. A Rijalu Kawamuna Ala Nisa. The men, quote unquote, are to be the maintainers and the providers for Anisa, for the women, because Allah has given one more fadl than the other. So one of those two, allegedly, the Rijal, has gotten more from God than the other one. But that's not fair. Why would he give the woman more? Why would he give the man more than the woman? You didn't read that correct. You didn't hear me correctly. I said that it says that the men are the maintainers and supporters over the women, in that God has given one more fadl than the other. He didn't say which one. Where's my feminine energy tonight? Where y'all at?
I'm right here. I bear 4 children. I think.
Listen, Allah did not say specifically which one he gave the fadl to. So the men come and give y'all the fiddle, and they start playing that fiddle, and y'all start buck dancing, doing everything the men tell them to do. But you're supposed to tell that man, if you're not bringing home the halal bacon, I don't have to do all this other stuff you trying to get me to do.
That's right. That's right.
Wait a minute, I'm out working, you're home, couch potato, eating potato chips and hot dogs. I'm coming in from a hard day's work, and you want me to wash the dishes and cook the meal? And, oh no, I'm not going to do that. In this instance, buddy, I'm Arijal. I'm the one on top. And you have consigned yourself to becoming Anisa. Now, if the man don't like to hear that, he need to get up off his rusty dusty and do some real work. Surely there's some work that needs to be done in the house. Everybody's sitting around the house in this COVID moment. Find something to do, mister. Young mister. Child, mister. Find something to do. That's your nature. All right. So when that electromagnetic signal that began when your torus field, when your aura was sparked and your torus field energies began to develop, that's an electromagnetic field. Red shift, blue shift, electric, magnetic, red shift, blue shift, electric, magnetic. When that became activated in you, that is what religion is supposed to be referring to as spirit, not this invisible, spooky Casper the ghost type thing that they keep selling us in the churches and in the masjids. When they tell you about the spirit, brother, Allah's spirit. No, the only spirit you're going to ever engage is the spirit of electromagnetism operating when your ruh has been activated and when your aura and torus field energies are in alignment, in agreement, and operating on your behalf as a creature of Asani Takwim. Then you'll see what spirit means. When Allah decides to pull the plug on that electromagnetism, there goes the spirit. It comes right out of your mouth. It comes into your mouth at birth. When they slap you on the hiney as a baby, if they still do that, the baby takes a gasp in. See, that's the ruh being activated. When you leave here, that same breath goes out. And you're deactivated because the electromagnetism is no longer functioning, and you begin to immediately decay. It's nothing spooky. It is metaphysical and therefore a part of the realm which the Quran calls el-ghaib, or the unseen. I think my handheld recorder ran out of space. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, it's full. So you'll get the rest of the audio. It's not going to be that much longer. And my laptop has been recording a nearly perfect video or webinar audio recording. So bear with me. I'm only going to be about another 5 minutes, inshallah. So again, that unseen realm is called al-ghaib, and it's metaphysical. Spirit and electromagnetism, you can't see magnetism and you can't see electricity unless it jumps out of your wall or jumps out of the sky. But on the most part, this electric universe is al-ghaib. It's unseen. You see it sometimes. Magnetism, you walk by the wrong thing with a magnet. Oh, you get sucked in, right? But not really do you see it. Now, your computer files, they operate on this same principle in that the files which they tell you are in a cloud, C-L-O-U-D, are actually in counter space. See, you don't think about these things because they don't encourage small people to think like this. They're scholars in universities, scientists and Nobel Prize winners. This is the level that they're thinking on. These are the conversations you could be having with them if you're tired of talking to Joe next door about the weeds and the bugs and the whatever, you know, how often it rains or didn't rain. Or you're tired of having those kinds of conversations and you want to step it up a little bit? Listen to what Instructor Bilal is dropping on you right now. The word cloud, a popular word in computer language right now. C-L-O-U-D, C-L-D, or ka-la-da, cloud, K sound, right? It's from the Arabic word Khalid and Khalidun, Khalidin. Allah talks about those who will be in the paradise and they will be there. Guess how long? Forever. Does that sound like earth to you? On one level it is, but not really. It begins here and it extends into the forever and ever and ever. No death, Instructor? No death. Khalid means existing forever. Allah, this is Allah. This ain't no hadith. Now, this is the Quran telling you that if you do right and do the right thing and all that, you can be here with the Khalidin, those who exist forever. Now, how is that? Listen to this. When you have a terabyte drive that's full of information, it feels no heavier than an empty one, does it? You got a thumb drive? Fill it up to where you can't put any more information from your computer on it, and then weigh it on a scale with a brand new one that has nothing in it as information. Exactly the same weight. Where's all that information, y'all? It's in counter space. It's in, you get it now? It's in the cloud. It's in something that has no limitations in terms of the amount of information. That's why if you learn to exercise the principles of the intellect that will allow your supra intuition to become activated, there's no stopping the level and the quality of information that you can download bi-idhnillah, by the permission of Allah. It's the stuff that prophets are made of. So we can be prophets, you can be P-R-F-I-T-S for sure. And your intellect and the world will profit from your downloads. You don't have to be Moses. You don't have to be Jesus. You don't have to be Muhammad. You don't have to be Adam. You're the son of Adam, which means that you have naturally inherited your prophetic properties. But you can't go in there thinking that it's all guesswork or whatever your mind comes up with. That's God talking to you. That's the sure way to the nut house. There are principles in operation that you have to learn, and there's a conditioning of the human soul that you have to experience before you can get that kind of download and communication from God. And part of it is the reciprocal relationship that you have to develop with God in that ayat where he says, I respond to the call of every caller, but let those with a will respond to my call. Just a little bit. You know, it doesn't have to be that urgent. Just acknowledge that Allah wants something from you also that he doesn't really need. It's all for your good, all for your benefit. Even if you pretended like you were going to respond to God, guess what? Allah will still come and answer you and help you. Don't you know he designed your subconscious brain, your subconscious mind for that kind of response? That your subconscious mind, it doesn't know the truth from falsehood. Your conscious mind knows. It suspects what's true and what's false. Your subconscious mind, everything that enters your subconscious mind after being somewhat evaluated by your conscious mind, and it gets into your memory bank, your subconscious mind automatically accepts it as the truth. El Haqq. This is how these people are becoming so successful. They say, I don't even have to believe this stuff. All I have to do is repeat it to myself enough to remember it, and my subconscious mind will take it as gospel. What a wonderful creature created fi asani taqweem by God. Yeah, I'm gonna cut them some slack. I'm not even gonna make it so that they have to have 100% faith in what I'm giving them. All they have to do is commit it. Think about it, to do dhikr, contemplate, ponder, as Allah says in the Quran. If you ponder it enough, whatever your conscious mind decides on will be immaterial. It will be operating in your subconscious mind to bring you to the destiny. If that ain't good news, like Sam Cooke asked, ain't that good news, man? Ain't that news?
Alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar. Bilal.
Allahu Akbar.
True humans coming here tomorrow. Ain't that news, man? Ain't that news? I'm feeling good, alhamdulillah. A little bit tired, but I'm good. 5 more minutes. Now, if you open up that hard drive, you cannot see the information or the memory that's in that hard drive, can you? If you stick it in your computer, there it goes. A whole terabyte of information. But break it open, you don't see any information come out of that drive. In the same way, if a surgeon opens up the human brain, she will not find thoughts. She won't find what you thought about this morning or right before the surgery. If a surgeon opens up the human heart, he will not find your emotions. People say that's why I don't believe in no chakras and all. You can't see no chakras. You can't see your emotions and your intellect either. Bil ghaib, Allah says. Believe bil ghaib. Allah gives you enough to go on to accept the rest of it that you don't understand or haven't seen with your eyes. Your intellect and your emotions are being recorded and safeguarded within the realm of counter space. All of this information is being safeguarded and will be represented to us in the judgment. You want to know how your whole life will appear before you? Because all of the information has been recorded, downloaded, safeguarded within the chambers of the ether or the etheric realm. Man, thank Allah for Imam Muhammad, who encouraged us to study metaphysics. Y'all still over there studying hadiths and schools of thought. What a shame. What a waste. Studying fake diseases. Y'all studying all kinds of stuff now. You're wasting your time. You could be studying something to put an end to all of this foolishness and all of this chicanery if you would just study the Quran as a cosmic book, as a book possessing everything necessary as knowledge, contained and preserved on what the Quran is translated as a tablet. A tablet. pure, undefiled, la rayba fihi, no doubt, no exaggeration, no corruption in it. No corruption can touch it, according to the Quran itself. And it exists among the purified ones. Don't you want to be in that number? I do. The dedicated focus on Allah is what keeps the original signal activated, especially through dhikr, which cultivates an electric pulse or a heart signature, a heart signal. It's about reaching the human heart and purifying the heart through charity, through love, through emotional expression, through marriage and family life, through play from time to time, humor, at least, and I'm speaking to Minister Farrakhan's folks now, at least Mr. Farad encouraged the members of his Nation of Islam in his day and time in the early 30s to play baseball. I think they had baseball games every Wednesday. But after he left, Elijah Muhammad's group became too serious to play. He discouraged other forms of sport and play, but he encouraged baseball of all sports. Mr. Farad, he was out there playing baseball. Did you know that, Mr. Nation of Islam follower, that Mr. W.D. Farad, master, if you will, W.D. Farad, used to play softball with his early followers? Did you know, Mr. Follower of W.D. Farad, who you need to stop calling God in person of, did you know that he used to go to the dances and cut a rug on the dance floor? Oh, Instructor, you're lying now. I know no W.D. Farad wasn't on no dance floor. You don't know what I know, and you don't know who I know. I spoke with his dance partner. His dance partner was the wife of the brother of Elijah Muhammad. His name was John Muhammad. Lived a long life, died maybe 10 years ago or less. His wife's name, they call her Sister Bernstein. She's got a book where she talks about all of this, but I had a chance to interview her one-on-one. And she told me and W.D. Farad used to dance on he was my main dance partner, she said. Isn't that beautiful? That Allah let that live in history so that these many years later, if you're having a problem, struggling with the idea of who God is, you either choose the one who's the supreme ruler of the heavens and the earth, or you choose the one who did the cha-cha-cha. It's an easy choice, if you ask me. And you know, everybody loves the cha-cha-cha. Even little children love the cha-cha-cha. That can't be God, as we know God. Come on now. Save yourselves and your families from the fire whose fuel is men and stony ideas like that. Cold, hard, can't grow nothing ideas in the head. You need to save yourself from that. And men are the major proponents of that. And Nas, they're the ones telling you these tales. See, you're laughing at the Arab for accepting weak hadiths when many of the followers of Mr. W.D. Farad accepted his hadiths, his stories, his tales. But he told you enough to save you, because he told you. He didn't tell you, but the original followers of Mr. Farad, they called him Prophet W.D. Farad, including Sister Clara Muhammad, whose birthday is today. Born in 1899, April 2nd. She told you that they called him, in the literature, they had a newspaper back then called The Final Call to Islam, while Farad was here. And immediately after he left, the newspaper was still in existence, and they called that man Prophet W.D. Farad. But when he was asked, because Clara asked him, are you a prophet? He told Clara, prophet is too big of a title for me. And as Imam Muhammad asked years later, asked his mother actually back then, he said, how can you, if a man tells you that a prophet is too big of a title for him, how can you expect me to call him Allah? And that's what got the wheels turning in her brain, and the webs began to be removed, and she accepted her son as her first leader. That's what she told him. She said, she accepted to be his first follower. That's what she told Wallace, a young Wallace, under his father, being put out of the house and the Nation of Islam. She said, son, she said, I think I'm beginning to understand, and I want you to write me down as your first follower. Tell that to the Nation of Islam people. I love them. I tell them that. We have what's necessary to move this whole era into a golden age. So you need to condition yourself by dedicating your focus to Allah, not to frivolity and foolishness. Focus most of your day, especially the waking hours when you first get up. Don't check what's in your cell phone and all that and check your phone messages. Check in with Allah. Check in with God, Christian, Jew, Muslim, Buddhist. Check in with the Creator. Have a silent moment, a silent prayer, a meditative pause before you even get up all of the way out of the bed. Thank that Creator for your life. Connect immediately with the source through dhikr. Mention the names of God. We're going to do some of that during Ramadan on the webinar. Just repeat the names of God, because this is going to cultivate an electric pulse when it's constantly repeated or remembered. That's what the dhikr means, to remember. It's electric. Allah represents the initial point of existence. His mulk or kingdom is the DOT, where all DATA is stored. So he's the original, the kingdom, and the throne that he represents is the original starting point, the dot, where all data or data is stored. So if you want to be able to tap into that storehouse of information, you have to find your way back to the dot. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. That's what's going to put you on top. And I'm going to stop there. And if you want to, just to keep the energy flowing, you can give a round of takbirs or whatever it is you choose to express at this point.
Allahu Akbar. Thank you. Alhamdulillah.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Beautiful day for us.
Allahu Akbar.
Beautiful day.
Shukran, teacher.
So, alhamdulillah. So I'm going to draw a line here so I'll know where to pick up on Sunday. And that I'm sure will suffice you for the next 2 days or so.
Allahu Akbar. Thank you, brother.
And alhamdulillah, thank you. And
Thank you.
feel free to begin inviting people to part 2. Do not assume on your own that this is going to be too deep or too much for them. I don't care if you're in the backwoods of somebody's Alabama or wherever, Louisiana. Do not take it upon yourself, because you know Brother Yusuf only finished the 6th grade, and don't you be the one to decide that this is too much for Yusuf. Let Allah decide that. It might be something totally different than what you're here for that Yusuf might become attracted to, and it might turn his life around and put him on top of the world. This is not all about language, you know. This is about the manipulation of frequencies that are restoring life for many of us. And I would have to say most of us, because most of you haven't gone anywhere, even though you don't say much. So I know it's affecting you, and it's correcting you, and it's helping you. It's helping me, helping my children, my relationships with the people, the way I see people. I go to the supermarket or the gas station. I see humanity different than I did before I came into this level of the logic and language of Imam Muhammad. So if you give that up, man, you letting go of a serious rope. Don't do that. And I don't think
That's
you will.
right.
I don't
Yes,
think
sir.
you will. But I'm just saying, I don't want to be the one to say that I didn't tell you that.
Instructor.
Yes.
This is when anybody even tries to equate what we're learning and what we're absorbing here to any kind of level of education, as far as what we're accustomed to in this kind of in this system. I feel as though we're breathing a different kind of breath as far as what we're absorbing here. So I don't even try to equate it to somebody having such and such a grade level of education.
Yeah. And thank
That's
you for
right.
this.
Yeah.
Thank you for this note. Also, I'm
Alhamdulillah.
just seeing your note, Habiba. Is maybe we should just say Allah and not say he, she, or it when referring to our creator. Allah doesn't reduce our originator to a pronoun. Well, there are pronouns that are used in the Quran, so we just gotta scratch our heads, and that's what I mean by golden age. Somebody amongst us, maybe our children, will listen. They come up with all kind of wise ways of rapping and hip hop and all that, and putting words that didn't exist, making up stuff. Maybe they can, maybe this is one that we have to pass down to the next generation and say, can you help us with this he, she moment that we're having here? Maybe it's in your children, your grandchildren to figure it out. Those are conversations you should be having with them, especially during Ramadan. Say, I don't want to call God a he or a she or it. Son, can you think of something, some other way? Or maybe we can make up a word in English. Nothing stops us from doing that. The Phoenicians did it. What stops us from doing it?
That's right. Even saying "om" like they do in I think it's the Hindi
Well, yeah.
preference. Yeah.
Yeah, I just showed you where the ohm particle was being mentioned.
That's right.
Om, that's what they're doing. They're speaking through language. So for sure, yeah, but we'll figure that one out, instructor Habiba. We'll figure that one out. All right, so I'm not going to open up for any questions. I'm sure all of you are having mercy on my voice. Right. It's already done all that it's going to do. And, I don't have any short answers to any questions, so I'm not going to do that to myself or you. But I'm very happy to see those of you in the queue who are here, who were able to make it to this Friday evening session. I'm overwhelmingly happy at where we are right now in our space and time as learners and instructors. Inshallah, at some point in May, I'm going to ask a couple of you graduates to help me put together a second ceremony for several other people who are going to be graduating as instructors also. So let us prepare for that. I will be continuing to call you individually, especially if I haven't had a conversation with you one-on-one, just to pick your brain and see where you are in certain things, or see where you need a pull up in terms of the language and the logic. So prepare for that in the next couple of weeks. We have to set a date in May, whenever Ramadan is over with. Maybe the last week in Ramadan, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I want to have that graduation ceremony, and I want it to be as beautiful, if not more beautiful, than the first one that we had that produced all of you wonderful instructors. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So thank you for your time and attention. Those of you who have paid I guess I can call it the tuition donation for semester 14. Thank you so much for being on time. Some of you were ahead of time, like 2 weeks ahead of time. I thank you for that. The regulars, you know who you are. You always come through. And I would just remind those of you who may end up being a little bit tardy to communicate with me. If it can't be done right now, you need to tell me. If it can be done partially, you need to tell me. But I really feel bad when I start taking people's names off of the email list and you don't get notices. And then you call me after that to say what happened, or I'm ready for you now, instructor. But let me know that now. This is not about the money. This is about your growth and development, especially as it relates to your soul. We do not want you to be one of those souls to become eliminated in what Imam Muhammad called the great elimination. We don't have to have that happen for anybody in this gathering. We're not a part of that annihilation and elimination. I don't care what the politics, what the economics. If you're living out of a shoebox, you still do not have to sacrifice your soul in order to continue and make progress into the future. We're going to show you how to do that with the Quran, with the cosmic Quran. We're going to show you how to make that progress for your soul. I can't show you how to make money. I'm struggling with that myself. But I can show you how to build upon the excellence of the human soul, the nafs, the ruh, those properties, the aql, the intellect. We can work all of that. That's where we need to be. So let me sign off. I don't think there are any announcements. Are there any pertinent things that need to be said that I overlooked or don't know about that you need to tell people? Okay, I'm not sure. So those of you who do the moon watching and all of that, you'll report back to us what our association is saying about the first day of Ramadan.
Mhm.
Don't come to me with other folks. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be more than a hand slap if you do that. Don't send me no links, no nothing to something that somebody 1,100 miles away from me said about what he saw.
Right.
Mhm.
All
Mhm.
right.
Right.
We are
Right.
adult Muslims in an association, yes, in an association that respects the intellect
That's right, brother.
and respects the freedom to think
That's right.
without being dictated to, like little children or like sheep or
That's right.
sheepish people. So don't do that. All right. So with that said, let us make dua. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Our guardian, Evolve, give us the excellence of this life, give us the excellence of the next life, and save us from the torment of the blazing fires of our misguided passions. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. Certainly Allah has spoken of mighty truth. As I greet you in the greetings of peace that obligate each and every one of us to keep the peace, and that is Salamun Alaikum.
Alaikum
Salam.
Alaikum
Man, thank you
assalam.
so
Salamun
much. It was
alaikum.
so wonderful.
That
I
was
love you all.
wonderful.
Hey, listen, take advantage of those audios that I sent you from Imam Muhammad. They're powerful.
Yes.
Don't
Yes, sir.
sleep when I
I
send you
will.
something from Imam Muhammad. You should listen to it falling down in your sleep. You should listen to it as you're going to sleep. After you make your dua and your salat in the morning, you should push that play until you can't stand it no more.
That's right.
I'm sending you those
Okay,
for a
will
reason.
do. I sleep like that anyway.
That's your inheritance. You playing softball with. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Alaikum.
All right.
Jazakumullah khairan.
Good to see all of you.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay. Peace to you all. I'll talk to you soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Alaikum
assalam.
assalam wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum salam.
Salam.